He's the one that always says.
All right. Let's try again. You would only vote for one, yes?
Yeah.
The House of Representatives. That's it. I promise you, at some point in time, you will get that question on an exam. Today, how many of those do you get to vote for?
There's still one. Two is still.
Today, right? So I've registered some. I registered what? Blair to vote. Anybody else? I registered you to vote. Good job. Okay. So when you go to cast a vote in 2024, right? Will you get to vote for the Supreme Court? No. Will you get to vote for the House of Representatives? Yes. Will you get to vote for a senator in 2024?
No.
Yes. Ted Cruz will be up for re-election. Will you vote for President of the United States in 2024? No. Not really. I mean, you'll cast a vote for Donald Trump or Joe Biden, but it doesn't count. Because the Electoral College is what elects the President of the United States. Not the popular vote. Okay? I need you to understand this. This is what I was trying to get to at the very end of class on Friday. I don't want to talk over top of y'all, please. This is what I was trying to get to at the very end of class on Friday, because the reality is our elections are becoming less and less and less competitive in America, and this is problematic. Okay? We are less competitive today. Presidential elections only matter in a handful of states. That's it. California will always vote for the Democrat. Texas will always vote for the Republican. Okay? New York will always vote for the Democrat. Okay? Very few of our states are what we would call true purple states that in any given year could vote Republican or could vote Democrat. Okay? Alright, in order to win the presidency, you need 270 electoral college votes. That is what you need in order to win. Alright? There's a whole process to this. I'm going to be honest with you. It's fairly complex. The Founding Fathers intended it to be this way. I want you to understand that, because the Founding Fathers did not trust direct democracy. The Founding Fathers thought you were stupid. Okay? And when I say stupid, what I mean is ill-informed. Not incapable of learning, not incapable of having knowledge, but ill-informed. Okay? Now that should stand to reason. We're talking about 1787, right? How long did it take to get a letter from Boston to Charleston, South Carolina in 1787? A week? 2 weeks? Right? You're talking about possibly up to a month for correspondence to go there and then a response to come back. A month. That is a very, very long time. Information is not at your fingertips like it is today. Okay? So the Founding Fathers thought that most people would be ill-prepared to vote on national issues. Because why would somebody from Charleston, South Carolina really know what is going on in Boston, Massachusetts? They wouldn't. Today, we do. It's a little different. It's actually one of the reasons why there are a whole bunch of people that would like to see the Electoral College go away today. Because we are not as ill-informed as we used to be. Okay? I need you to understand these three words because they will definitively be on a test somewhere. Right? You need to know what an initiative, a referendum, and a recall are. An initiative is a proposal put on the ballot by the people. A referendum is a proposal put on the ballot by the legislature. Right? But you still get to vote on it. You get to vote. These are direct democracy. You get to decide whether or not this becomes law. Okay? 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it was, I was living in the state of California. I had a vote on whether or not I wanted California to legalize marijuana. I could make that decision. Right? And I don't remember who it was in it. I know it was a referendum. It was put on there by the state legislature, which is why I voted against it. Because the legislature didn't say what they were gonna do with all the money they raised from selling pot. And I'm not okay with not knowing where that money's going. And the third one is a recall. That is a removal of somebody from office prior to the, end of their term of office. Okay? California is really the best example I can give you of recalls, because the threshold to remove somebody from office in California is so low that it's ridiculous, right? So low, okay? Like, all you have to do is get 51% of the people, or 50.1% of the people, to agree to a recall, right? And they're off the ballot. That's it, right? And to actually get that process started, to have an election for whether or not you recall somebody, only requires like a specific number of signatures. And for a state the size of California, that's relatively easy to get to. That's how in 2003, Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor of the state of California. Okay? He won a recall election. And I'm going to be honest with you, California was so ridiculous that there was literally a, how do I say this in a high school class? An actress that ran for governor? We're going to call her an actress.
Oh.
Yeah, her campaign slogan was, thanks for stating the obvious.
What'd she say what? I didn't hear her.
Don't worry about it.
Wait, who was it?
Her name is Mary Carey. Her campaign slogan was, "Boobs, not bombs."
Wait, kind of.
Mary Carey. She ran for governor of the state of California because getting on the recall ballot is also really, really easy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, if I lived in California, I'd have been on the ballot a year and a half ago.
Did you win?
No, I wouldn't have won. Gavin Newsom wasn't recalled. He won his recall. So they did not remove him from office. But part of the reason they did not remove Gavin Newsom is the way California recalls work is it's basically like, it's two questions, right? Question one, do you want to recall Gavin Newsom, yes or no? If 50.1% of the people say yes, right, then it moves on to question two. Question two is, who do you want to be the next governor, right? And that can be, there's like 30 names, right? And so you could say, like, no, you don't want to recall Gavin Newsom, and then also pick somebody just in case you lost, like you could do both, right? But because 30 people are running, when we talked about elections on Friday, 30 people running, how many votes do you need to get to win? Not that many, right? Like, you can get 8% of the vote. In fact, one of the Republican candidates running for president in 2024 is a guy named, I can see his face, Larry Elder. I think Larry Elder is his name. That doesn't sound right, but you can Google that. He's basically a talk show host, right? And the reality is he probably would have won. I think he got the plurality of the votes in that recall, and it was like 8%. Like, that's not very good for democracy. All right? Here's what you need to know about campaigning. Number one, incumbents. You need to know that's a vocab term, right? I will not define that for you on the test on Wednesday. Okay? Incumbent is the person already in office. Joe Biden is the incumbent in the 2024 election because he is the current sitting president of the United States, right? When Troy Nehls runs for re-election next year, he will be the incumbent. Ted Cruz is the incumbent. Okay, that's the person already in office. Incumbents have a ton of advantages, like a ton. They almost always win. And again, this is part of the reason why our elections in the United States are not very competitive. Okay? It is actually, it drives me crazy. I find it so depressing. We'll talk about this in more detail when we get to Congress, right? But congressional approval in the United States is at like 15%. 15%. That means like 15 out of 100 people think Congress is doing a good job. Those 15 people are probably high, but still, they think Congress is doing a good job. Yet congressmen are re-elected at a 90% rate. Do you understand how those two numbers are so wildly, incompatible? We can't all think Congress is doing a bad job and then be like, but hey, let's send the same bums back. They all suck. They should keep their $200,000 a year job that they don't really do. It's ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. Yeah, 1 second. Okay. Fundraising, dude, it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money to run for office anymore. Ridiculous, sums of money. Hillary Clinton in 2016 raised over $1 billion. Billion with a B. Billion. Mike Bloomberg ran for the Republican nomination for about 3 weeks. 3 weeks. He spent $1 billion of his own money to receive 0 votes. 0. Okay. Okay. All right. The amount of money that it costs in order to run is getting higher and higher and higher, and that is problematic. This actually does a good job of showing you sort of what is happening over the course of time, right? So that we see the campaign expenditures are going up pretty substantially, and specifically amongst the incumbents, because incumbents can raise significantly larger sums of money. Incumbents have voting records that people know, and therefore the people that like that voting record are going to continue to give them money, right? The NRA will donate large sums of money to political candidates who vote in favor of NRA policies, okay? The NRA typically does not give money to non-incumbents for a couple of reasons. One, the NRA is not going to waste money on whatever Republican is unfortunate enough to run against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in 2024. Because that Republican cannot win. They cannot win. They will not win. They cannot. It is impossible. I hate using the word impossible. It is impossible. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will not lose to a Republican. Period. Hard stop. So the NRA is not going to give money to a Republican candidate who has 0 chance of winning. Okay? Grassroots media. Obviously you have to use the media. At this point, everybody just goes negative. Right? I mean, at this point, nobody talks about why they're so great. They just talk about why the other person is worse. And the debates, I'm going to be honest with you, at this point, debates aren't even debates anymore. They're not debates. They're not people actually engaging in content. They're people that are just continuing to, repeat or recite the same sort of talking points that they do all the time anyways. I mean, the last time we had a debate that was actually, organic, meaning they actually were, arguing with one another, was during the 2016 Republican primary process, in which Donald Trump and Marco Rubio got into, a 10-minute conversation about the size of Donald Trump's hands and whether or not the size of his hands equated to the size of something else. Okay? Well, have y'all never seen Donald Trump drink anything? He drinks like this. It makes me wonder, because I mean, he's a big guy. Oh my goodness. Okay, I do want you to understand though that debates used to matter, but interestingly enough, if we actually go back to this slide, just so that you know, right? The two guys on the left, right? That is John F. Kennedy to the far left, and then on the right side of that black and white picture is Richard Milhous Nixon, right? So Kennedy was elected president of the United States in 1960. Nixon was his opponent And then Nixon is actually successful as president of the United States in 1968, right? They had the first televised debate, right? Okay. Nixon, on the right, refused to wear makeup during the debate, right? Because he thought that would make him look less manly. Okay. You know what happened instead? Them bright lights made him look like he was sweating. So what does that tell people? Oh, he's nervous. Why is he nervous? He must be lying. Right? Whereas Kennedy looks very charismatic. Interestingly enough, if you ask the people who watched the debate, who won the debate, they all said Kennedy. If you ask the people who listened to the debate on the radio, who won the debate, they all said Nixon. Okay, style and substance are no longer that important anymore. We've already talked about polling. Okay, because we have to talk about Citizens United versus the FEC, because it's going to be on your test. I promise you it'll be on your test. Here's the deal. This is one of the worst Supreme Court cases ever, because no matter what, you lose. Okay? This is what makes things so complex in American government. The Citizens United case, you basically had a group called Citizens United who made a movie, right? So they fundraised significant sums of money. They made a movie called Hillary the Movie in 2008, all about how Hillary sucks. Okay? And then they tried to show their movie in movie theaters, and guess what? The FEC, which is the Federal Election Commission, said you can't do that. It's a violation of campaign finance law because you have raised too much money, and therefore you cannot engage in political speech. Okay? That doesn't really make much sense, because if it's my money, shouldn't I be allowed to use it as I see fit? Yes? I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? I have freedom of speech, so therefore, if I'm Mike Bloomberg, if I have $70 billion, and I want to use $1 billion to get my name out there during a presidential election cycle, and be like, hey, vote for me, because when I was governor or mayor of New York City, I banned large sodas, right? Which Bloomberg did, if you didn't know that. Right? He's trying to combat the diabetes. But you understand, like, if you deny me the ability to do that, you are denying me free speech, yes? You understand that? Here's the problem, though. If you let me do that, what happens? Everybody's going to raise absolutely as much money as they can, and the cost of campaigning is going to balloon to the point that it is ridiculous. In the 1990s, our presidential campaigns, put this in perspective, in the 90s, our presidential campaigns were funded by taxpayers. Right? The national government gave the Republican and the Democratic Party $90 million each to run a presidential campaign. $90 million. That's a crap ton of money. Okay? Nowadays, neither party takes that money. They say thanks, but no thanks. Because if they take the $90 million, then they are capped at spending $90 million. They can instead fundraise on their own and raise billions. Okay? And then turn around and spend hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And that makes it significantly more difficult for average people to ever participate in this system. Okay? And it makes the system far more conducive to being, or far more responsive to the needs of the elite, of the wealthy. Because those are the ones who can buy access. Okay? So no matter what, we were screwed. You're either going to limit free speech, or you are going to make democracy so expensive that the average person cannot really participate. No matter what happened in Citizens United, America loses. That's why that case sucks. There's not a good outcome. Okay? And eventually, when we get to civil rights and civil liberties, that's what I'm going to ask you to do over and over and over again. I'm going to ask you to pick the best of two bad situations. Right? I'm going to ask you to make a value judgment as to what matters more when two really important things conflict with one another. Okay? Not a lot of right answers there, but you need to understand that. Alright? Soft money is just unregulated. Dark money is completely hidden. You need to understand, actually, I don't care about the numbers, right? A 501c is basically just, the 501c is a IRS designation, right? That makes it a nonprofit. Don't worry about that. What I want you to worry about or understand is the difference between PACs and super PACs. Okay? PACs are political action committees that go to congressmen. Super PACs, right, are committees that exist outside of candidates' races that is predominantly spent on presidential races. Alright? Prospective voting, retrospective voting. Perspective, what you think is going to happen in the future. Retrospective, what happened in the past. Hey, I'm going to be honest with you. At this point, most people tend to vote for somebody based on how they feel about them as a human being, which I don't understand, right? Like I just don't. I don't get it, right? But we have candidate-centered elections now. Like that's a term you need to know. Candidate-centered elections, right? We care about the personality of the individual, right? Like I'm going to be honest with you. One of the just so we understand, one of the questions they ask regularly, right, is like, would you like to get a beer with this president? Right? Like here's the thing. Would I want to go and get a beer with Donald Trump? God no. No. Hell no. First of all, Donald Trump is a teetotaler. That dude don't drink. Right? So I don't want to sit there drinking my beer while he's silently judging me. Right? But that has nothing to do with his like ability to like govern. Conversely, if you ask me like would I have a beer with Barack Obama, I guarantee you, bro, I'm a huge college basketball fan because I went to UNC. Barack Obama's a huge college basketball fan. I promise you, that man and I can sit down at a bar and probably have like 2 or 3 or 4 beers, right? And just talk college basketball and have a wonderful conversation that is not political in the slightest, right? But I mean, I've got some friends and family that I like personally that I'd go have a beer with. Don't mean I want them running the country. Right? I don't care. We've talked about polarization and that. At some point we'll talk about impeachment, but yeah, that should be good, right? That's just voter turnout ridiculously high. Yeah, COVID probably had a lot to do with that because it was really easy to vote by mail, which is one of the reasons why the Republicans hated it so much. Yeah, we're done. Alright, now you can read your article on Donald Trump. On why Trump can't win. It's not really on Trump. It's more on election politics.